What happens when you ask a machine to help you understand scripture? And I mean, not just reading the words, but actually really understanding what's happening and using some reasoning and some thought and really deeply considering what it is that we've been given in the text of scripture. So I decided to run some experiments and try it out. And I've got access to many different AI tools. And in fact, I have used each of the AI tools that I have available to me to do this inspection. And what I really expected was to get a very cold and logical but detailed analysis with the deep research tools that are available across the AI solutions that I use. But what I got today was really quite different than what I expected. And I was honestly stunned with some of the results that I got back. Now, what this means is well beyond simply reading the text, but it also means that it opens some doors and some opportunities for us to explore and think about new ways that we can leverage AI in terms of the way that we think about and observe the world. But it also provides us with some implications on maybe what it means for AI to be our direct collaborator and to deeply think about the things that are on our minds. And then I want to reflect a little bit on the arc of where things are headed and how I think what we have revealed to us in the text relates to AI at large in a number of different ways. So let's dive in a little bit and let me just preface how I sort of started down this rabbit hole. There's been a lot of great activity in AI over the last couple of years. And I've spent a lot of time trying to understand where is this going? How far is the technology going to change the way that we live and function? There's many folks that are talking about terminology like artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence. We're quite a long way from where we were just a few years ago with generating poems with the likes of GPT-3. There are many that are saying that the advanced capabilities that AI is bringing means that it deeply understands on a level that even exceeds human intelligence. And while I definitely see some indications and some emerging behaviors that I think are absolutely thrilling, I also think that we have this habit of anthropomorphizing the capabilities of our computers, and that oftentimes we tend to give it more credence than is really valuable. Now, to be clear, I don't have a bone in the fight. Whether we have AGI or ASI tomorrow or we don't, my position is that we have at least a decade of work to do with the technology that we already have at our disposal today. And that alone is enough to change the world. But as I started to think about the implications of AI and what it means for human existence and our current station and place in the world, I also began to reflect on what are the things that we have at our disposal that maybe we're not giving enough credence to. And one of those for me is the text of the Bible. So I've been reading and learning about these topics in a number of different ways. There's several books I've read, and as I've continued my journey of faith, I've also been asking the question, what is it that I should be doing right now? This unique set of things that I've been working on, both from a spiritual and technology standpoint. I've been on a journey, and I wonder if maybe there's not something I can learn and share with the world that could really bring some value and some insight to the conversation. There are many people that are pushing the envelope with AI. There are many that are pushing the envelope with religion. I'm not looking to push the envelope on either of those things, but I do think it's important for us to stop and think and ask questions. So, as I get into this, the very first thing I want to share with you is that I've spent the last couple of weeks just doing some reading about AI and thinking about faith in general in a number of different ways. And that's what led me to kind of ask this question. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my ChatGPT interface and give you a chance to kind of see what it was that how I got into this. And I think it's really interesting. because what often happens with me with the AI sessions is that I simply bring up the screen and I start thinking about, what is it that I want to learn about? And it typically starts with just a simple thought. Today it was thinking about all of the information that's contained within the Bible. And so I just simply started writing my thoughts and how I saw things because for me, it's an interactive experience. Now, the very first thing that I want to highlight here is that I did choose GPT 4.5. I've been really impressed with this model, and I'm a little kind of depressed, if you will, that OpenAI has already taken away ChatGPT 4.5. But I wanted to operate on this while I still had the chance and I had it fresh in my mind. So essentially, where I started with this is the idea that the Bible is a dense form of communication and that there's compression in the language in terms of how the information is captured, how it's presented. There are many different ways that a person could study the Bible, but ultimately, anytime you sit down with a bit of scripture, it is not simply what is on the page. There is much more to that. And that was what I was trying to capture. Now, for the folks that have been studying things like biblical prophecy and AI, it is not uncommon for the book of Daniel and the prophecies in the latter portion of that book to come up and be the focus of attention. So I was very intentional about choosing the book of Daniel. And I prefaced this idea that, yes, there is a base set of stories in the book of Daniel that pretty much everyone understands. We've all probably heard the story of Daniel and the lion's den, and my name is Daniel, so I have an affinity toward the book because that's something I have in common. But beyond that, right, there's some prophecy at the end, and I wanted to highlight that and ask questions about it. Another book that's really become a part of my life, and one of the things that I've spent time on is reading through Proverbs. There's a lot of great wisdom in that book. And again, it is a poetry like listing of those bits of wisdom, those statements of value. And I actually find that reading Proverbs on a regular basis helps me to think more clearly about what it is that I need to do. Um, so that's kind of where I started from this. And then I prefaced it with this idea of, hey, we've got all of these incredible things that we can do with AI. What can we learn from thinking about this and coming at it from that angle? And of course, I turned on deep research so that it would immediately give me some feedback, and it gave me a couple of different options. And I thought through those options and I really felt like, this symbolic and prophetic interpretation that is oftentimes brought to Proverbs and Daniel was definitely more appropriate based on its response to me. But then I thought, you know what? There's some really great things in the book of Job around understanding where we fit in the universe. And that's probably really relevant to this AI conversation. So I added that and asked it to apply it specifically from the perspective of the advancement of artificial intelligence. I let it run for a while and I was incredibly impressed with the results. I like using deep research in ChatGPT because it gives me a nice little PDF that I can export, and the way that it approaches the production of what you've asked it, I just find it to be really good and really interesting. And I'm not going to sit here and read this to you, but what I want to call out, and I'm going to scroll through this a little bit, I'll make the file available in the download so you can download it and read it for yourself. But what was really fascinating about the results of this research report was the tone, the approach, the way that it talked about and thought through these things was what really impressed me. It was not a cold analysis. Now, it did go out and do the work, right? Anytime you're leveraging deep research, there's a ton of sources that are available, and it did that. It went out and pulled relevant content into the research, and it absolutely used that in composing it. And so in many ways, you might say, well, that's not really the AI analysis, that's actually the human analysis that was aggregated, summarized, or in some way reasoned through and reconstructed with AI. And I don't disagree. Uh, And again, it doesn't have to be AGI for it to be really valuable to our own experiences and how we see the world. And so that is the sort of the key takeaway here is this is a composition of human thought, and there are definitely some aspects of the way that we use AI that sometimes we just want to say, well, the AI is brilliant, it does all of these things. But in some ways, I still see that so much of the intelligence in the AI is entirely and completely based on human thought and the ideas that have been presented, perhaps reconstructed and cast in a new light in new ways by the understanding and reasoning that is available in the AI tools. But I don't think that we can totally divorce one from the other. And what I loved is that it pulled in the scripture and it thought through and shared some details around, hey, here is how these things come together. And as I'm reading through the report and thinking about the different perspectives and things that it decided to pull in and pick up on, these were some things that I had not seen. I have not come across some of the positions that were brought into the research report. So it was fun for me to read because there was some real revelation to me in terms of what it said. But organizing these thoughts in a cohesive way and putting them together in a way that I could read through them, I also found to be valuable in the research report. And it broke it down. It took it book by book. So it did a focused look at Daniel, and it leveraged the thoughts, the prophecies, the various positions and concepts that others have brought in. It's very common for this particular scripture in Daniel 8 to be brought in terms of reflecting on what the prophecies are and how AI fits into that. And then it jumped and went straight into the next. Now, I want to compare this to what I saw with a couple of others. And the first is what I got from Gemini. And when I pulled it up in Gemini, I gave it the same preface. Now, ChatGPT came back and said, what area do you want to focus on? I didn't get that same kind of response, and I did not intentionally direct Gemini with the same seed of thought. So the results were going to be different because I didn't do exactly the same thing. But what was interesting is that the latest model from Gemini 2.5 gave me a really interesting research report and a set of insights, but it took a totally different approach and not totally irrelevant. This is one of the exciting things for me about leveraging the AI. I was excited about the response from ChatGPT, but at the same time, the sort of cold analysis that I got from Gemini is kind of what I've come to expect from an AI analysis. So I did get part of what I was looking for. It's this idea of thinking about how we read the text. And then it broke down the text, but in a much more cold manner, right? Here, it's talking about the surface lossy decompression in the first chapters of Daniel. And I love this analogy. This is the JPEG version of Daniel, widely known, culturally resonant, with much of the deeper prophetic data removed for ease of transmission. These first six chapters don't touch in any of the prophecy, but they are absolutely essential to understanding some of the things that we see with Daniel and the prophecy. I think you have to have those first six chapters to really understand that the prophecy in the latter part of the book is entirely a gift of God. It is given to Daniel. It's not something that he simply shows up of his own accord. And when I think about what we can do with AI and I think about what we're given in the scripture, we can leverage these AI tools to give us those different sides of the cube and really think about it. Now, another interesting thing that happened is I'm a big user of Perplexity. I love to use that on a regular basis. I find it to be really beneficial. I asked it to go through and do this exercise. Again, I prompted it with that same set of text, right? In fact, it even includes my typo of the word could. And I did the deep research, and it came back. It gave me some answers. And what was interesting in terms of the answers that I got, um, it was pretty terse. I didn't get anything remotely close to what I got from the first two. It pulled out some bullet points, but this isn't really what I was looking for. I was really looking for something much deeper than that. And so this one I'm not going to focus on a lot. So really, between ChatGPT and what I got from Gemini, I had some really exciting results. And so I just wanted to get this down and record it and share it with you, because I think there's some really interesting things that we're going to see. I'm actually really hopeful about this development, and I want to talk about it from a bigger standpoint, that the knowledge that we are able to expose and take advantage of with the AI is something that is absolutely essential to our daily experience, whether that is reading scripture or getting actual work done. I have been increasingly impressed with the kinds of results that I'm getting from these AI tools. So much so that it's got me changing my workflow and thinking about problems in a new way. Sometimes I have an idea and I sit on it for far too long, simply because I don't have the time to sit down and give that a lot of thought, or spend a lot of time writing my thoughts out. And this sort of collaborative relationship where I'm able to throw out a thought and get things are given back to me. I don't fully agree anytime with what the AI gives me, but it helps me think through an idea. Leveraging a quick feedback loop is really valuable to me. And so, one of the things that I want to impress upon you as I'm closing the discussion here is, you have thoughts every day. And I think that that dialogue that you're having with yourself in your own mind, and it happens for me too, from a faith perspective, that prayer at night, or the devotional, the reading of the scripture, I'm thinking through what I'm reading and what it means for me. As we close out the conversation, just a few thoughts. We should be very proud of what we've been able to do with this technology in the last 3 years. Things come together in a way that I sincerely did not think was actually possible, or would realistically happen in my lifetime. The godfathers of AI and folks like Ray Kurzweil that have projected the capabilities from just a pure silicon and an algorithm standpoint would improve and reach the level of human intelligence. But that's a prediction, that's a guess, and everybody's guessing. No one knows how this is going to happen. But as we look at what these capabilities are, we should be very clear. And this is something I want to impress upon you as these things continue to evolve and change. I have never been more confident in my life about the words that are given to us through the Bible, just straight up. And the challenge with AI capabilities is we could absolutely fall into believing everything that AI generates and taking that as gospel. But I must tell you, there is only one gospel, and it is found in the pages of the Bible. So we should always think critically and find ways to improve the way that we think about the world, so that we never stop using what we're given. This inside our mind is incredibly powerful. And even with the most cutting edge technology that is available, we still collectively, as humankind, have far more intelligence than a machine could ever have. But we have to work together. And so think critically, read a lot, continue to enrich this, use AI to make you better, so that we don't abdicate that responsibility and simply take whatever comes out of the AI as the answer to the problem. We must constantly search, validate, test, research, and continue the journey for ourselves, so that we can make things better for everyone. So, with that, I want to encourage you to continue to work with this technology, find new ways to play with it, read as much as you can, and take advantage of this output. I loved this. This was fantastic. And this is what I mean when I talk about AI mistakes. going out and trying something, just taking a random shot, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, but knowing that, hey, let's try this. Let's see how it comes out. Does it provide something useful? And you never know, it might bring some insights that you can take away with you and share with the world. I know that I enjoy doing that here on the channel. So I appreciate you watching. Would love for you to share with your friends. Give me a like if you enjoy what I'm doing. And I'd love to hear from you in the chat. If you're willing to share your thoughts and feedback with me, I'd love to take it, good, bad, or indifferent. I want to continue to have the conversation. Ultimately, I want AI mistakes to be that place for all of us to collaborate and learn and grow as a community so that we can make each other better and make the world a better place through that learning. So with that, go make some AI mistakes, and we'll see you next time.